What if I told you that Jack Dawson never existed? Yes, the most iconic love story in cinema might just be an illusion. There are signs that Jack was nothing more than a creation of Rose's mind, a manifestation of her desire to escape her suffocating life. But does that really make sense? In this video, we'll analyze the evidence suggesting that Jack was never on the Titanic, explore the temporal inconsistencies he makes, and reveal how he might just be a distorted memory of old Rose. Get ready for a theory that could completely change the way you see Titanic. Imagine being trapped in a life you never chose. A golden existence on the outside, but suffocating within. That was the world of Rose DeWitt Bukater, a young aristocrat promised to a loveless marriage and controlled by a mother obsessed with status. At the peak of her despair, Rose finds herself at the edge of the Titanic, ready to end it all. And then he appears. Jack Dawson emerges like a fairy tale hero, a stranger who seems to know exactly what to say to make her step back. He doesn't shout, he doesn't panic. Instead, he just talks as if he already knows Rose deeply, as if he has always been there. But who is Jack Dawson? A wandering artist who claims to have won his ticket aboard the ship in a card game. No luggage, no family, no tangible past. He wasn't supposed to be on the Titanic, and maybe he never was. Jack exists only for Rose. What do we know about him before he meets her? Nothing. His past is a blank canvas, filled only with vague stories that no one else ever confirms. When he talks about his life, everything seems intangible, like a dream told by someone who never truly lived it. And even stranger, Jack appears at the exact moment Rose needs a savior the most. When she is about to throw herself into the ocean, he materializes out of nowhere, as if he were a projection of her own mind. The Titanic was filled with passengers, each with their own problems and routines. And yet, Jack never truly interacts with anyone besides Rose. He dances with her in third class, teaches her how to spit, how to enjoy life without restrictions, how to break free from the invisible prison of high society. But what if he wasn't real? What if Jack was nothing more than a creation of Rose's mind, a manifestation of the desire for escape and freedom that she never had the courage to pursue on her own? And that's where the theory begins. Jack Dawson may have been nothing more than an illusion, a memory shaped by time, a story told by Rose to justify her transformation and survival. What if he never existed? Jack Dawson, a name that sounds strong, yet within the Titanic, it means absolutely nothing. There are no records of his presence on the ship, no boarding pass, no assigned cabin. Rose insists he was there, but where is the proof? When Jack is accused of stealing the heart of the ocean necklace, Rose tries to defend him, yet no one can find any official evidence of his existence on the ship. That makes sense for someone who supposedly won his ticket in a card game, or for someone who never existed. Think about it, Jack has no luggage. Not a single personal belonging. He boards the largest and most luxurious ship in the world carrying only a sketchbook and a piece of charcoal. No extra clothes, no sentimental items, nothing that suggests a real life before that moment. And even within the Titanic, he leaves no trace. No witnesses saw him board. No crew members confirm his presence. He moves freely between social classes, never questioned, as if he were a ghost wandering through a world he doesn't belong to. Now, look at the other characters. Cal Hockley, Rose's mother, the first-class passengers, the third-class workers. They all have connections, histories, and relationships with one another. All of them except Jack. He exists only for Rose. And when the Titanic sinks, his body vanishes into the ocean. No search, no mention of him among the survivors. Jack disappears like a memory that was never real. If he were merely a creation of Rose's mind, all of this would make perfect sense. But is there even more evidence that Jack was never meant to be there? If Jack Dawson really existed in 1912, how could he mention things that didn't exist yet? Were these small script mistakes or intentional clues? Let's analyze the details. During the movie, Jack tells Rose that he used to go fishing at Lake Wissota in Wisconsin. Seems like an innocent memory, right? But there's a problem. That lake wasn't created until 1917, 5 years after the Titanic sank. How could he remember something that didn't exist yet? Another timeline inconsistency appears when Jack talks about riding the roller coaster at Santa Monica Pier. Seems like a casual detail, but again, there's an issue. The roller coaster wasn't built until 1916. Now think about it. How could an uneducated man, who claims to have spent his life traveling the world, get everything about his life right except these specific time-related details? Or could it be that he simply didn't belong to that era? If Jack were just a memory invented by Rose many years later, it would make sense for these details to be wrong. Her mind could have mixed up facts from different periods, including things she saw or heard long after the sinking. Moreover, Jack never talks about his family, friends, or any connections to his past. He presents himself as a free-spirited traveler, without roots, without a history. He is almost too perfect to be real. Could Jack have been nothing more than a fantasy created by Rose to justify her transformation? What if he never truly existed, but was instead a projection of everything she longed to be? If Jack Dawson never existed, then what was his true purpose in the story? Simple. He was the manifestation of Rose's desire for freedom. From the very beginning, Rose is trapped in a world where she cannot be her true self. She is forced to follow the rigid rules of aristocracy, marry Cal Hockley, and maintain appearances. But deep down, she longs to be free, and that's where Jack comes in. Jack represents everything Rose wishes she could be: a free spirit, unbound by social constraints. Someone who lives in the moment, unafraid of the future. A person who truly sees her and encourages her to break free. What if Jack was just a creation of Rose's mind, designed to give her the courage to change her life? Think about the key moments. Jack stops Rose from committing suicide. In other words, he appears exactly when she needs a reason to keep living. He teaches her how to spit, dance, run, and rebel against the rules. Everything she had always wanted to do but needed a push to embrace. He convinces her to abandon everything and start over. Jack helps her realize that she doesn't have to be a prisoner of her own life. And then, the moment Rose finally breaks free, Jack disappears. The most intriguing part? The famous wooden door scene. If Jack was so clever and determined to survive, why didn't he truly try to get on the door with Rose? Why does he simply accept his fate and vanish into the water? Simple. Because he was never really there. He had already fulfilled his purpose. Rose didn't need him anymore. The moment she finally lets go of the chains of her past and chooses to live, Jack fades away, just like a dream that disappears at dawn. If Jack never existed, then why does Rose remember him so vividly? The answer may lie in the way the story is told. When the movie begins, we see old Rose reminiscing about the events of the Titanic. But notice something important. No one can confirm Jack's existence. None of the survivors, historians, or even the treasure-hunting crew have ever heard of him. Jack exists only in Rose's memory. And what does Rose decide to do in the end? She throws the heart of the ocean into the sea. The necklace represented her past, her old life of obligations and emotional captivity. Tossing it into the ocean may symbolize that she has finally let go of Jack, or rather, the part of herself that had to invent him in order to break free. Now, look at the final moment of the movie. Rose falls asleep, or perhaps dies, and in her last breath, she returns to the Titanic and finds Jack. The ship is whole, glowing, and all those who perished in the tragedy are there. But what if this isn't just a romantic reunion? What if it's the representation of Rose finally accepting that Jack was never real? A final dream before the end, where she makes peace with the part of her mind that created Jack to help her escape. In the end, Jack Dawson may have never existed, but he was real to Rose, because without him, she would never have found the courage to change her life. And that is the true tragedy of Titanic. The greatest love story in cinema may have been nothing more than an illusion. If this theory made you see Titanic in a completely different way, don't forget to leave a like. It really helps the channel grow and brings more insane theories like this one. And now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Jack never existed? Or do you believe this theory is pure nonsense? Drop a comment below. I read everything and want to know your opinion. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. There's a lot coming your way. And look at that, on the final screen, there's another mind-blowing Titanic theory that might change your perspective on the movie even more. Click it and check it out.